Okay, I'd like to call to order the meeting of the Finance Committee Tuesday, November 4th, 2025 at 5:13 p.m. Start with a roll call. Alder Galvin.
Here.
Alder Johnson.
Here.
Alder Hinkfist.
Here.
And myself are present. Entertain a motion and approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Approval of the minutes.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. On to regular business. Number 1, consideration with possible action to accept the 2026 State Beat Cop Grant, Wisconsin Department of Justice Grant Award for $161,912 with local match requirement of $40,478. Is Chief Davis on line?
No, but we'll see.
I thought he was on the last. Okay.
Maybe he hasn't come back yet.
I mean, it looks like this is an annual grant that comes in.
This is the annual
right?
grant.
Oh,
So,
okay. Any discussion?
No, I'd make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries unanimously. Number 2, consideration with possible action to purchase 2024 Toolcat UW56 with bucket from Bobcat Plus Inc. for a total of $42,000.
Director, is this, I know it said it was coming from their capital reserve fund. Is that just money that's been bonded previously but unspent?
Correct. It's either unspent bond proceeds or just, fund balance. Maybe at some point they sold some equipment and it went back into the capital equipment fund, but it was really undesignated dollars sitting in their fund.
Okay, and so because this was scheduled for 2027 replacement in the CIP, I presume that just means we're going to save $42,000 in 2027?
Correct. And the emergency is they need it now.
Right.
Okay.
So we're going to pay cash for it now,
Yes,
and then we're not going to have the 5-year bond or 10-year
Correct.
bond later.
correct.
Yeah, and it's also used, so there's a little bit of lower cost there. It's not a new piece of equipment, and there's a trade-in. So even though the other one is not in great condition, we're still getting some money for a trade-in on that.
Sure. And I think it's fine that it's here. I think we're clearly going to support this, but did we not lift the purchasing threshold to $50,000?
The reason why we had it on here is just because it wasn't part of the CIP program that was approved,
Mhm.
and we were using our fund balance. So,
But, and I think just for clarity's sake, for probably our benefit, your benefit, does that
Yep.
matter, Director Ellenbecker? I mean, if it's under 50,000, does staff have the
Are you sure?
authority to just make that decision?
Our procurement manager is here. Tom, can
Sure.
you speak to
The
that?
reason I did that is
This is a
because
big
the actual
cost.
purchase price is 53.
Oh, okay.
And
Got it.
with the trade-in, it brought it down to 42. And I thought, well, the real cost is 53. So
Might be worthwhile
let's
to-
recognize it even though the approval's 42.
Yeah, and I appreciate that clarity. I think it might be worthwhile to maybe even contemplate modifying the policy to provide clarity around that, just for future. But again, I have no problem with this, so I'd move to approve.
Sorry, we do have
Yeah.
a question. Are we seeing the one that we're trading in as a 2022?
yeah, I believe that is correct. I know Nathan is here, but the
They were out
The
that
Toolcats
fast.
don't have as long as life as you think they would have, so it was scheduled to be replaced in 27.
Okay.
Correct?
Sort of.
Nathan.
The toolcat in question has a major hydraulic failure, and to get it fixed, it's going to outweigh the value of the machine. So rather than stick $25,000 into a machine with 5,000 hours on it, it's more cost effective to buy something new, than with the longevity out of it, rather than rebuilding the old one.
Makes
Okay.
sense. Thank you.
Okay, sorry, go ahead, Alder Johnson. Do you-
Yeah, I had a motion to approve.
Do I have a-
Second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries unanimously. Number 3, consideration of possible action to approve a 3-year contract with Howron Oil for packaged oil waste and recycling services. The expected spend over the year is around $90,000.
Move to approve?
Second.
Okay, any discussion or questions? Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries unanimously. Number 4, consideration with possible action to approve finance audit service contract with Clifton Larson Allen for the City of Green Bay for a 5-year cost of $315,000. Any questions for staff?
And the other entities have to approve as well, right? Did they do that yet?
Correct, I can speak to it, and then our procurement manager could also speak to it. We went out as a bid with water utility and transit, and they can go with the same recommendation, or they could go their own direction if they wanted. I mean, we opened that RFP, so at this point, the city of Green Bay is the first one to take it through committee, and the other two will probably take their recommendations to cut their commissions.
And I'm assuming there's no reason that they wouldn't support the same one, but if they hypothetically did not, would that change our pricing?
It does not change our pricing. I just know internally, we probably have a little more, we have to probably collect more information and share between the three divisions if the auditors can't share that information.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions?
Move to approve.
Okay. All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Number 5, consideration with possible action on allocating the entire $750,000 from the site acquisition for affordable housing ARPA funding for the construction JBS urban barn with restrooms.
Yeah, so this project was last discussed at the Finance Committee in mid-May. It went to City Council the week after. The motion at the Finance Committee was to dedicate $309,000 of this ARPA money towards a match for a Wello grant. And then it was tied into some other TDOT funding also. That was the motion that was made. At the council meeting, the motion was amended to basically refer it to staff to provide more information as far as true costs for what this barn would come to with restrooms, along with what the cost is for the restrooms, and also maybe discuss alternate funding sources. So that was kind of the motion that was made at the council. Because there was a lot of discussion on what is the true cost of this building, what's it going to look like, how big is it, how much do the bathrooms cost, and I'm not an architect. I hired an architectural firm to create a preliminary design for us with some cost estimates. So if you look at the agenda packet, you'll see a rendering of what the barn would look like as far as what we're proposing. You'll see a plan view showing what's included in there. And really, we have 2 family restrooms. We have a food production area. We have a kind of a cold storage area that isn't heated, where it's just, like a garage. And in there, they would house a cooler and a freezer that Wello is purchasing using grant funding. And then there's a kind of a pack wash station in the back of the building. And then in addition, there's a porch facing the park. So if somebody wants to sit in the shade while watching their kids play on the splash pad, it gives them a covered porch option. So we worked with the architect to really make it as simple of a design as we could, to make it the square footage as compact as possible and as efficient as possible. We also really did not do much with ornamentation on this. It was just a box with a porch roof on it with standard siding.
I'm sorry, Dan, I can't get to
Oh, that's okay. So it's as simple of a design as we could get. And then we asked them to put together a cost estimate of what that would cost. Now, keep in mind that the square footages for this building meet the needs of Wello from a food production and a storage standpoint. So if we go smaller with this building, they have to start eliminating either the food production component, the storage component, the pack wash station, the bathroom. Something has to go if we're going to compact it anymore. And that being said, the total engineer's estimate is roughly $1 million for the construction of what you see here. And as we kind of looked at funding sources, as you know from our previous discussions, we do have about $750,000, I think it's $752 plus a little change in that ARPA account that's available. Obviously minus the $309,000 if you approve it. I don't think that was officially approved at the council though. And so we're still short, if we use that as the funding source, which still puts us short about $250,000. We've had discussions with Wello. They're committed to fundraising $250,000, the shortage, if the city council doesn't feel comfortable coming up with the full $1 million for this. They would propose to do a very short, maybe a 3-month capital campaign to come up with that $250,000. Because if we do use the ARPA funding at all for this project, we have to have this building built by December of '26. There's a deadline to the funding if we use the ARPA funding. So we also had some discussion about what other funding sources are out there. We've had some internal discussions. There really aren't a lot of options out there for alternate funding sources other than maybe ARPA interest or bonding for it, which we're gonna have a discussion in our 2026 bond request. It is not currently in our bond request, but that's another option if you don't want to use the ARPA money to the full $750. So really, because there were so many questions as far as what this barn will look like, what's the square footage, and what are the true costs, hopefully I've provided that information as far as what's the simplest design that we can get away with, which is still fairly aesthetic to fit in with that neighborhood component. Because we're building, condos and apartments and residential literally right next door to this facility. And we didn't want it just to be a box shed design, which is, you could save a little bit of money by going that route, but I don't think it serves the neighborhood well and the image that we're trying to portray in that neighborhood. So I guess from there, I'll open it up for questions. We do have Wello here. I know Natalie, I believe, is online, and Tara is here from Wello in person. If you'd like to open the floor for questions and comments to Wello.
Does have any questions for Wello?
No, this is something that we, as far as I know, that we've committed to building with the $309,000 and the contract that we signed with them a few years back, correct? As it relates to JVS. So the city is liable to build a barn. They have to build a barn.
I think as they're on the barn, I think it's the bathrooms that were unfunded, right?
Well, what was committed was a match to the grant, which was $309,000.
Yes.
And what we said is, once we know how much money we have allocated towards this project, we will work with the consultant to design a building within budget constraints. If our budget is $309,000, they cannot build what's being shown here, which means
No,
either the
I agree
food
with
production goes away or the storage goes away. They can't have both with a $309,000 budget. So I didn't really say that the barn would necessarily cost $309,000. I said the commitment to the grant as a match was $309,000, and we would design a facility to whatever budget you give us. What I'm telling you now is the barn that's designed with the $1 million estimate meets the needs of Wello, and it provides public bathrooms. If we don't get the full $1 million in funding, either through fundraising and city funding, then something has to go away and we can't build that facility. We can't, either the food production goes away or the storage goes away or the bathrooms. I did reach out to the consultant and ask them how much the bathroom component is. And they said for what's being designed in that building was roughly $100,000 out of that budget. So if you eliminate the bathrooms, you still can't build that barn to what Wello's needs are.
What is the square footage on the barn?
I think it was like 3,500 square feet.
Let's see.
I have it in the
Oh, 35.
Yeah,
3,500 square feet roughly. That's an approximation.
And this came through, initially, we did have a lot of questions, and I'm sorry, Director Ditchite, I didn't mean to imply that we were limiting it to 300,000.
Oh, yeah.
That's
No,
not
I
what I meant to
understand.
imply, that we absolutely have to support that grant. And we said we were going to build a barn, and I don't mean to speak for all of us, but it's like, are we building a $5 million barn, a $10 million barn? I mean, we had no clue. This offers, and thank you, a much broader picture into what that cost would be. As far as, I don't even want to get in the bathroom discussion, because if you build a barn, you have people working there, you need to have bathrooms.
Yeah, and in fact, our
It's not even
architect
up.
kind of pointed to that might be a code that requires bathrooms if we have people working in that barn.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't want, if you want to know that, I can find that for certain at the by the council meeting, but he did say that at one meeting that he thought that the code would require it.
and if we move the $750,000 out of ARPA, or the ARPA money that you are talking about, that's also part of the economic development area. I mean, that's one big, so if we do that, we're not going to be able to buy any land for short-term, or for short-term, for housing or anything like that. We would deplete that account?
Correct.
Thank you.
Dan, perhaps you can provide some clarity. I thought we authorized that 309,000, but my memory, maybe it was just the discussion, so perhaps you can recall better than I can, but I thought we used ARPA interest for it.
No. No, originally in the motion for the finance committee, it was 309,000 out of this ARPA. It was 50,000 in ARPA interest, and it was 500,000 for TDA funds to do the cumulative homeless shelter project and this. But then in the end, at the council meeting, the motions were all amended. And I think the final motion coming out of that meeting was to refer to staff.
Okay, that's right, I do recall that. And I don't think anybody's ever had an objection to the investment, as part of the overall, comprehensive plan for that park. I think where the debates has always been is how to fund it. And, I'm trying to think back, you kind of took over project management responsibility of the project, and I remember we talked at one time about the amount of contingency that was being held on this particular project. Do you have a sense yet? Has there been additional work where you know where those bills are coming from, and if they're...
Are you talking about the project as a whole?
Correct.
I would say that as it's looking right now, we are going to spend all of that money that is currently allocated for JBS. And there's a potential, I don't know yet, but there's a potential that we might even be short for it. There's just been a lot of change orders. We're still working through some change orders, but we're kind of getting to that breaking point where we're close to spending all of the money. So I would say there is no, out of the money that's been allocated for the JBS project as a whole, I would not feel comfortable dedicating any of that money towards this project at this time for the barn, just because there's a potential I may be coming back and asking for more money for that
So
in the future.
we had a $5 million grant from the state right on this project. We borrowed $5 million against the TID that we created there.
Correct.
I think we transferred $2 million from another TID.
12 million.
And
then
then,
there was a $500,000 donation from JBS.
okay, and
12.5 was the budget for that project. 12,500,000.
Yeah, there was $2.5 million transfers.
which,
But did we ever just use ARPA interest to develop? Man,
oh, that's what Dan's saying, is that
No.
motion was changed. So that's why they're here asking for the 750. We did the additional 250 to fill the hole that was
right, where
dug
did
out
that
there.
come from?
That was from the TID.
That was TID as well?
And then there's the expectation that more might come in.
Potentially. I should know in the next month or two
Okay.
whether or not we'll need more, but there is a potential that we may need more.
Sure. And again, I'm just trying to I think all of us, we just want to wrap our brain around these numbers. Have we done any type of TID projections or forecasts in terms of what type of new increment is expected to be generated out there and when?
I don't know if this was sent back to Ellers or not. There was, at one point, there was a new projection. I do not have one available at this point if a new projection has been completed.
Okay, because I know that's one of the questions that I've been asking, right, is the ability for us to utilize either a TID balance or borrow against the TID for this particular project. recognizing, the affordable housing needs that we have in our community, and here we have $750,000 that was sort of designated for land acquisition for that. And, timing is interesting when we're looking at short-term rental policy changes, when we're literally sitting on $750,000 that could be used for affordable housing. And, I know we're sitting at a gap for affordable housing development over by the fire station. Sure would be nice to, I'm just trying to balance, right? Like, how do we get the right uses in the right places to achieve both objectives? And that's just ultimately, what I want to maybe help, the part that I want to understand a little bit better. And I know Director Becker and I chatted a little bit earlier today, and I inquired if it would be possible to use that $750,000 as a loan that could potentially get repaid on an affordable housing development that then comes back to the city. But it also helps that affordable housing development happen while finding a different funding source like the TID to complete this project. So I know there's some,
Is that an answer to that question?
yeah, I think there's some regulatory questions around that or compliance questions. I don't know, Director Ellenbecker, I asked you very late in the afternoon. You probably didn't even have a chance to look yet, but.
Nope. And part of it, of course, we have that deadline, spending it down by December, right? And
Of next year.
Next.
Correct, of next year, correct.
Right, and that other housing project wants to break ground then.
Part of that, I want to reach out to the development director and find out how many dollars have already been allocated from, I guess, sixth floor funding sources for that project.
Yeah, I guess I'm not sure either.
There's been a lot of dollars that have already been allocated.
Well, and that's where the loan part, it doesn't bother me then, right? Because it gets repaid and,
I would have to go back and look to see, for every ARPA project, we had to submit something to the federal treasury and say how it was going to be spent. It had to be spent as a MOU, and I do not know how those dollars were, what was submitted, because once we hit, was it the end of 2024, we were no longer allowed to change
Right.
how we're going to spend it. So I would have to look to see what that MOU also says.
yeah, and the mayor did mention that to me this afternoon too. He just couldn't recall either what the exact language was, but, and I'm just trying to contemplate what our options are to kind of help fulfill both needs. Okay.
I mean, is it fair to give staff a little bit more time to look into all that before we make a decision?
What's your timing on this, Dan?
Well, my timing is, we have to give direction to our consultant to create bid documents so that we can bid this project out and construct it if we're using ARPA money, and construct it by December of next year. So we don't have a lot of meetings coming up with, December thrown in there and holidays, so I'm a little concerned if this decision goes into January before we make the decision, because, the architect's gonna need 2 to 3 months to create the plans and specifications, and then it's two to 3 months to bid it and get a contractor on site. I just don't want to get to the point where we run out of time with spending the ARPA money.
For sure.
So I think the sooner we can make the decision, the better.
I don't think we have to wait that long. I'm wondering could we get maybe answers to a couple of those questions by the council meeting even?
If you're willing to revisit this at next week's council meeting.
Yeah, I think I'd be comfortable with that. I don't want to speak for anyone else here, but if I had answers on what's possible in terms of the uses of those other sources and even just staff's general perspective on some of the other alternatives there that I just talked about.
I don't know if Director Ellenbecker can get that in time.
I would have to repeat the questions. At some point, I think, we'd have to have Director Rainier Wiggin involved, but I guess I'd have to ask. You're asking whether or not, for me, I would first want to check to see if we can even change how we're going to reallocate the $750 because it's been locked in.
Right.
So that would be the first thing, is pull that MOU for that category in which we had allocated the dollars.
Yeah, why don't we simplify this? If you could maybe just share that MOU with us. Let's start there. Because I think that might be the thing that's just fast enough to expedite this. I don't think there's a need to wait until January. I need to be making a decision. To me, it's by council meeting, the meeting after that at the latest. But I think we can get this on the right track. I just want to make sure it's not disrupting maybe a required timeline to meet some deadlines.
That's my required timeline if we end up allocating ARPA funds for this. That's my deadline to build it.
I have one quick question. I see that to date, Wello has been awarded $585,000 in grants to support the efforts. The $250,000 you said they're willing to fundraise to get to that $1 million. Is that coming out of this $585,000?
No, it would be additional fundraising that they haven't even started the asks. I think their ideal would be for the city to just fund the full $1 million. They would much prefer that because, one concern that I have is obviously we create construction drawings for $1 million project, but then for whatever reason, they have, as a challenge coming up with the required $250,000 match through fundraising. And then I have to either shelve the project because we're short $250 or $250,000, or you have to scramble for that funding somewhere, or I have to go back to the architect and tell them to redesign a smaller building. So, that $250,000 fundraising campaign, they're willing to do that. They are definitely open to that, but I think their preference would be for the city council to just allocate the full $1 million, if that's an option.
And I can ask Wello directly, what is the $585,000 going to then?
And I guess I would defer directly to Wello, but it's various different initiatives. Some of that was buying equipment that goes inside of the barn, so there's going to be a walk-in refrigerator, a walk-in freezer. I believe there's some machinery that's in there. There's also staffing costs to help support the planning for the whole farming program. So it's a lot of different initiatives, all associated with the farm as a whole, not necessarily to this one little farm component of it. But if you want to open the floor and ask for more detailed questions, I'm sure they can answer.
I'd like to ask a quick question.
Yep.
You alluded to, I can't not remember the way you said it, that there was a possibility that there'd be cost overruns or things were starting to change orders, I think it's.
For the JBS subdivision and park project.
Okay, not for this
for the barn.
project.
Right.
For the barn, the estimate that I gave you for $1 million has a 10% construction contingency built into the.
So that's plus or minus.
Yeah, so it's basically a $900,000 construction project with engineering fees plus a 10% contingency.
Okay.
It's all broken out in the detailed estimate, but the $1 million includes architectural fees and a 10% contingency and the anticipated construction cost for the barn.
All right, and if we didn't have Wello do the fundraiser, where are you anticipating getting $250,000 from?
The same funding sources that, I mentioned and that Alder Johnson mentioned.
Okay.
There are no other options that I'm aware of.
Is there any block grant funding? I mean, I would have presumed this area is in a qualified census tract, right?
Yes, it is in a qualified census tract.
And I don't know if we've got all of that allocated to specific projects yet, but just floating that out there.
Yeah, it's a timing thing. The other thing is once you put, and it's not a deciding factor, but if they provide enough funding towards it, it's worthwhile. But the key is if you use community development block grant funding, you do have to follow federal wage rates to build it.
And that applies to the whole project? then,
That
right?
applies to the whole project
Yeah.
if you use any block grant money.
And that's significantly higher than prevailing wage in the state of Wisconsin, right?
Correct.
Okay.
So it'd have to be worth our while in order to use that
Yeah,
money.
that makes sense.
Alder Johnson, I do have that, the MOU that was loaded to the treasury. Yeah, the award amount, or the amount that's available yet was $752,843, and the way it was worded, as you know, the original application was for RDA vacant land, but it had been modified to RDA vacant parcels, community and economic development, and park, recreational, and forestry. And so that is the only portion that has been modified, so it allowed the use of it for this project.
Yeah, I wasn't so much thinking about the use for that project as it was how it might apply to the application to affordable housing as a loan. And again, just I'm trying to figure out how we can solve both problems. So, did you want to open the floor?
I mean, that answers.
Okay. And, Director, are you going to still send a copy of that MOU
Yep,
to us?
absolutely.
Thank you. Did anybody from Wello want to speak? I make a motion to open the floor.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Floor is open.
Hello, good evening, everyone. My name is Tara Yang. My address is 1706 Chateau Drive, Green Bay, Wisconsin, 54304. So first and foremost, I want to say thanks for allowing me to speak, and thanks for allowing Wello to be part of the conversation tonight. My name is Tara. I'm a consultant for Wello, and we do have the executive director, Natalie Bonstead, online virtually, if you guys have any questions for her. I'd like to address Alder Grant's question about the over $500,000. So part of it was the first two portions, which equate to $250. That was part of acquiring me as a consultant for this project. And then the 309, that portion has not been, that was a match that was required in order for us to receive RFSI funding, federal funding. So that's not a cash match. So we didn't get that in cash. That is still with the city. What that should be appropriated for is to be utilized to construct or to work with consultants and construct this building. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Okay, perfect. So earlier this year, as Dan stated, we had requested for the 309, and that was to match the RFSI federal funding. And at that point, we didn't know the total of the building, but after working with, going through the bidding process, going through the proper process for that, we got, we got two quotes from them, just to be transparent. The first one was $1.2 million, but we had asked them to scale back some of the features. Like Dan had stated, now it's a basic building, but it does meet our needs for now, and it does reach up to almost $1 million. And so that's why we're here today, to ask the city to help fund a portion of that cost. And I also want to say that, yes, I know there's $250,000 left, but I want to let you guys know how committed we are to this. We wrote 2 federal grants. We received both of them. The first grant I wrote while I was in Japan. 12 hours away, 3 a.m., because the time difference, right? 3 a.m. for 2 weeks straight, we got that grant. The second grant is a value-added produce grant, USDA grant, that we got. I wrote that next to my dad while he was fighting cancer in the ICU, and so we got that one. So I'm proud of those 2 grants, and so I just want you guys to know how committed we are to this. Our team is extraordinarily dedicated, and I just, $250,000, that's a lot, but I know we can reach that number if we are able to have the city meet at least $750,000 of it. I think it's also fair to say that we're not just here to ask for funding. I think we're also offering true partnership. We've been talking a lot in Wello about this multiplier effect, where it's a public-private investment that drives community-wide returns. The city, we used some of the city dollars to unlock some of these federal funds, and then with these federal funds, we're able to get some equipment, some personnel to manage, to use our management expertise to operate this sustainably. And so all of these layers amplify each other. Every dollar invested with the city, by the city, it leverages several additional dollars. And so this is more than just asking to build a barn, a facility, a structure. It's about investing in people, and especially people who have historically been left out. For context, when this project came up, this building actually was proposed to be after bidding, we got a proposal for $4.6, $4.8 million, somewhere around that range. So we actually scaled back quite significantly to come down just below $1 million. So we don't even get our wish list. We're just asking for the bare minimum for the most vulnerable community members. They make up over 60% of our farmers markets, and yet they don't have resources and access to things that will help them grow. So if we're talking about housing, we need to talk about economic development. And hear me out, this is not just another project, it's generational investment. The impact of this facility will ripple through generations. It'll help farmers, families, and entrepreneurs for decades to come. It's also about creating something that's lasting, a facility that has purpose for multiple generations. And our city right now has the chance to lead by example. This is not something that's being done anywhere else that we know of and that we've researched. We couldn't find anything like this. Like I said earlier, this is not just a building, it's a catalyst. It's economic opportunity, local food security, and community space. We've done the work, we've secured federal dollars, we've built partnerships, and now it's the city's partnership that will bring this project to life. So, there's no better time than right now to invest in something impactful that creates long-term benefits for our community members. Many small-scale producers in our region rely heavily on short-term farmers markets that only last 4 months, maybe 5 months if they're lucky. And after surveying about 200 farmers within our Northeast Wisconsin region, we found that at one farmers market, they only make about $10,000 if the weather is not volatile or inclement that year. So for some of them, this is their sole income. So can you imagine stretching $10,000 for 12 months? And they're also providing for the families and the kids. So this facility, what it will do is provide a processing center where they can take the produce that they don't sell at the farmers markets, and then from there, that usually just goes to waste. And with 200 farmers that we surveyed, it's hundreds of thousands of pounds of wasted food. But what they can do is bring it to this facility. They can create a value-added product with it, and they can sell it to institutions, retails, grocers. They can actually extend their revenue. And so this, as we know, import here, and just to be fully transparent, my family and I own an Asian specialty grocery store. I know that we spend quite a lot, hundreds of thousands, if not millions, on import goods that we can grow right here in the Midwest. So this facility, it'll help allocate dollars and flow it locally to our community if this building is up and functioning. So as I stated before, we can't have housing, we can't have, we can't have development if our most vulnerable population, doesn't have the right resources to grow. So I'm, asking the committee today to really take into consideration this, funding this fully at $750 with these funds that Dan has proposed today. I know that we're looking to see if there's any other sources out there, but we're also working against federal timeline as well. We've already been waiting. These funds have been waiting for a year now. This is going on to 2 years, and it's a 3-year grant. So we're fighting against the federal timeline. So I really ask that you guys really look into that and take that into consideration. So thank you. And Natalie's also online if you guys have any questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else wish to speak to this? Okay, entertain a motion to close the floor.
So moved.
Do I have a second, sorry?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, floor is closed. Questions and discussion?
You're scribbling a lot over there, Bill.
Yeah, I know.
Not just doodles, but you were taking notes. That's why I didn't know if.
No.
But you've been quiet, so I didn't know. You had anything to say. I'll go ahead and make a motion, and I think, because I do think it's important to put something on paper here, and but I'm going to disclaim this by saying I want to do a little bit of research before the council meeting, and I'm definitely going to reserve the right to change my mind before council if there's another motion that I think could achieve both goals. But for now, I'll make a, what's the balance, 752,000?
843.
So I'll make a motion to approve $752,843 for allocation to the JBS project, with the request that Wello raise $250,000 to match that. And I want to note that I am emphasizing the word request and not making it mandatory, but that's the motion that I would make.
I will second the one.
Okay. Any other questions or discussion on that motion?
The only thing that I would say, it's really important for us to keep our commitment to the work that Well is doing. And we are in getting into year 3 as part of the RDA when this was approved many years ago. So whether we take it from here or wherever, we have to get this constructed as part of that commitment. So.
Yeah, and I would emphasize again, I think sometimes our discussion here has been misconstrued as opposition to the project, not by anybody here, but I've seen that, and nobody's ever opposed this. It's just been about the funding source and how do we get there, while at the same time recognizing that costs have really escalated on this project, and us having this fiduciary responsibility to understand why and you know how we tackle that. So I know, Dan, you kind of, you know, you haven't been with this project from the beginning, and but I think you've been really great at giving us updated information as you have it, so thank you for that. But much like we've made investments in other parts of the community, this neighborhood is also very important to the city, and so you know, I'm supporting for that reason, while still you know, wanting to make the point that, you know, this bucket or this allocation really was originally intended to help support affordable housing development in our community, and it's really been diverted for other uses. And so I hope that we can find a way to support the affordable housing development that we need as well, and really, you know, I know there's other tools that can help with that, but that's the piece I want to continue to explore prior to the council meeting. So
I would say I'm struggling with this in so much as I have been on board with this project. I worked in Imperial Lane in that area down there. I've seen firsthand how much help that those people need that live in there, and this project was a godsend. But it's a bitter pill to swallow when you get on board with something, and then as time goes on, the costs just keep going up and up and up, and at some point you're like Brian said, we had hopes of running this project that originally at the original estimates, and doing affordable housing, and working with a new fire department, and that starts to dwindle, the ability to do that, and to do it in a manner that you don't want something that's so inexpensive it's going to be a problem from day one. You want something that's going to be quality for these individuals that are going to be living there. And so this is just the hard thing. I'm having a hard time. Every time, it seems like every time it's like, well, you know, tariffs, steel's going up, costs, this, that, and the other thing. And it's, you know, you run into unexpected things, and I get that. But again, this is just so hard for us when we're the ones that are responsible for the finances ultimately to do this. But, and I agree, though, as the representative from Wello said, time is getting short. If we kick this thing much farther down the road, everybody's going to lose out big time on this, and we can't allow that to happen. So I'm going to support this motion.
And the other thing that I would add to what you said, Alder Galvin, is when we were asked for the $750,000 the last time back in May, it was, well, we know it's not going to be enough, but we don't know how much. So we didn't know if we were giving $750,000 to a $2 million milling or a $3 million building or $5 million. But through the process of sitting down with Wello and saying, these are our absolute requirements to do this, I think we've definitely narrowed what that building would have been through this process. So,
Yeah, I think for me, what's a little difficult about this is what I think the initial intentions of these funds were. And we keep hearing the stress about affordable housing, so I'm trying to wrap my head around a barn solving that issue. We hear it on every topic, I feel like, coming in front of us somehow ties to affordable housing. So, like Alder Johnson, Alder Galvin said, we have other projects in the works that also would actually, in this moment, solve affordable housing with units, actual livable units. So I don't think it's that we're against a barn, it's the timeline. What can happen in what order to accomplish all the projects. And again, when the initial idea for these funds were to acquire land for affordable housing, I understand we amended to make this fit. But again, when we discussed the ARPA funds last term, I think the initial objective was much different than what it's going towards now. And I think that's another hard pill to swallow with this. So, yeah, I personally would like a little bit more information before the next meeting, but I don't want to stall it for no reason either. So I will continue to have conversations in the next week as well. Look forward to more information. So do we have a second? I'm sorry, did you put a motion?
Yes.
Kathy did,
Second,
yeah.
okay. All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries unanimously. Number 6, consideration with possible action to approve the revised asset capitalization policy.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, any questions or discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries unanimously. Number 7, consideration with possible action to approve the 2026 levy supported borrowing request.
Let's see. I wanted to give you a little background before we got into it, so I put some charts and graphs in here, and at very, very high level, I just wanted to show them, talk about them, and see if you have any questions, and then we'll get into the borrowing request. This chart is all over the board, but it kind of just shows you how the blue line is our general fund borrowing, and what I'm trying to show is that back in 26, 10 to 20 years ago, the borrowing was kept always to be less than what we had borrowed the 20 years before that. And because of that there was a lot of deferred maintenance, a lot of equipment that was not replaced. And as you can tell, the last number of years now, really probably since about 2020, even 2018, we're starting to increase the amount. Obviously, costs have gone also up, but there is a desire to increase the equipment and try to catch up on some of the backlog of deferred maintenance. So that chart was really just to show you how I think I took the original $6 billion that was done in 2026, and if you converted that to these dollars these days, it would have been around 12 million. So as prices gone up. So either way, I don't know if you have any questions on that chart. I'm going to go into the second one. This one is just showing you of the different types of borrowing that we've done. I'm going to make it one a little bit smaller. It just shows you the blue line again is the outstanding balances of the different type of borrowing that we have. So we have over 120 million outstanding in general fund general levy borrowing. When you get down to the TID, we have over $30 million outstanding, $50 million outstanding sanitary storm, parking, Bay Beach. So it just shows you the different outstanding dollars. And why that's important, I'm going to go to my next chart. This has some TIF information on there, which is also a great tool for the city to use. Just talks about the different borrowing we've done for TIFs. But in the middle of the page, it talks about the state debt limitations. It just shows how the city of Green Bay can, oh gosh, I did that again. Let me get back to my page. Sorry. I'm very sensitive. What page?
66.
66.
All right, thank you. I don't know how to. Struggling with the bike mouse here. Okay, so state debt limitations allows us to go up to 5% of our equalized value, and over time you can see that back in 2021 we were of what we had been borrowing and what's our outstanding, we were at about 46 or just under 50% of what we were able to borrow. And at this point now, because our equalize has gone up so much, we are only at 34% of our capacity. So it's just saying we do have more debt capacity. So whether it's TID, where there is sanitary storm, any other general obligation borrowing, or general levy, we have more capacity. Next section just shows on our TIDs, we are currently, there's a 12% limit on how much you can do from the Wisconsin Department of Revenue for TIDs, and we are currently at 7.5% of that 12% capacity. We've seen this chart before. This is working with our financial advisors, and because we know we are trying to do not only our normal annual borrowing, we are trying to get a new fire station paid for, and we're also trying to do a police headquarters, either a remodel or a building. And so we've been staggering and forecasting that out, a dollar amount for each of those over the 26, 27, maybe 28 time period, or in these next couple of years. So, as we've been phasing this out and projecting our borrowing, overall, we've been saying we're trying to stay at that $17.3 million annual borrowing. So we've shown this chart before. The next chart should show how the amount that we have to levy is going to go up for a few years and then come back down based on our current borrowing. This says even with this additional borrowing, we're still going to stay within that 30% of the state limit. So what that leads us to is when we brought this to you originally at a different meeting, we were at about $21 million of general levy borrowing. And at that point, you sent it back to staff. You asked to bring it back to have two things. One, our goal, and I really didn't want it, max was going to be about that 17.3. We wanted to bring you something under 17.3. And we also wanted the request also from Alder was to make sure that what we have in the 2026 borrowing also matches the 26 column for borrowing needs on the full 5-year plan. So that is what's in front of you. What you're seeing on the report is if you look at the CIP report, it's much larger and has many more items. What we're asking for in the levy supported borrowing is anything that we did not have another funding source. We didn't have grants, we didn't have fund balances, we didn't have other sources to pay for these items, and that is the request that's in front of you. So what in grand total, our borrowing that we brought to you is about, for the annual borrowing is at $16,299,000. So basically $16,000,300. We still are looking at a $7 million borrowing, and that is what we've been projecting for year one of the new fire station admin building. And so we're looking at a proposed borrowing of $23,300,000. And then additionally, we're looking at storm sewers, looking for $1,340,000. Currently, this report shows parking division has a borrowing of $850,000, but that should be removed. That should have been fund balance instead. So that actually is not a borrowing request at this point. I would like that to be modified and removed from here. And then we are looking for some additional borrowing for TID 25 in the Grandview TID of $4,500,000. It's between the stormwater, however you spell that incorrectly, and infrastructure. And then we also are looking to borrow some money for the Light Park in our TID 5, and we're also looking for, it would be, and then we also have the infrastructure project of $3.5 million for Southwest Woods. So I know what, I guess I do want to bring it back to the original levy supported borrowing, annual borrowing, and that is usually what we typically go through in more line detail. So I do, I don't know if you had a chance to review. In front of you, even though we've come under that maximum, I still would want you to, review this, make sure that every item on here you think are the priorities for the city also. Just because it's under doesn't mean these are all the right items, right? And so I just want that something for you to take into consideration.
Couple questions for you, Dana. So, Lake Park being on here for borrowing $5 million, that should be a fund balance, right?
Correct, that's incorrect. Yes,
Okay.
As I was saying it out loud, yes, that Lake Park, we have the funds available, correct. We just wanted, according, the director, we wanted to make sure that we added it to the CIP, and at that point, we either I pulled it wrong, or it should have been fund balance, correct. So we do not need to borrow, because it's too late to borrow for TID 5, as that TID is being closed, yes. So that $5 million would also come off.
And right now, as of 2024, I should say, we're sitting at 34.3% of the 5% of equalized value. Do you have a sense of how much that changes after some of the more recent? I'm assuming this doesn't include, right, like new land and some of the other more recent TID funds?
It does.
Borrowing?
Ellers has taken that into
They
consideration.
did? Okay.
Yep, and so what they're projecting, and based on the Andrew borrowing and the police and the fire's buildings, it looks like we may go up to about 38% based on assumptions on equalized, and that it looks like about in 2027, and they're expecting by 2030, we'll probably go back down to a 34% with them making an assumption on equalized.
Okay. And then one point of clarity, so while we're certainly like at 34.3%, don't we have an internal policy not to exceed 50%?
Correct. Our debt policy would say internally, the goal isn't to not go over that 50%, stay within under 50%. So for many years, we were right around that 45, 50%. And now that the equalize has, the market value has changed so drastically in that last handful of years, we've been falling well below that 40 and now falling into the 30s.
So if this body ever wanted to exceed 50%, would that just require a supermajority? Or is it strictly prohibited?
It's a policy, you know, I
Right.
don't even know if you'd have to have, I think as long as if you voted on it and it went over, it'd probably be something that we would just bring to your attention. We have an internal policy, but there would be no restrictions to
Okay.
go, whether we went over that 50%.
It's not that I want to, I'm just asking the question because we do have some very large needs coming up. And so it's good for us to understand those parameters. And does this, when they're talking about the debt limit, does that include all sources of debt, including those that are revenue supported?
The only one that it does not include are the KI Convention Center, that outstanding $34 million.
And is that serviced entirely through the room tax right now?
It currently is, correct, and it is, the city would have to back it up if there is not enough to pay the annual debt service. But all other debt is general obligation borrowing, correct? And
Okay.
that would be, is what would fall under that percentage, that debt limit.
Okay. And then just one final thing that I just want to, more of a statement. I really want to commend you and the staff because for years we've been talking about the need to get this into alignment with the budget so that we can make decisions at the same time because if there are things that are in the bonding request that we say, no, we want to have that funded through the general levy, we can make that decision, whereas in the past we really couldn't because we take up the bonding request after the budget had already been passed. So kudos to you because I know this has been a ton of hard work and you guys have been bringing that in every
Yep.
year, more and more.
Staff too, and that's a lot when they're working on budget and
Yeah.
CIP at the same time.
Yeah, and I think if this is at least, as far as I can remember, the first time where
It
we're
is.
going to be able to simultaneously take these up, and I just think that's the new standard. So I think it puts us, I think, in an incredible position, you know, to really make good decisions for the city. So thank you.
I just have one question, and maybe I'm thinking the wrong park, but I was in the RDA today. Is it Badger Park we just authorized 100,000? Because there's another 50 in here.
Correct. The 100,000 was just to purchase the playground equipment. The 50 is here for the site work. So it'd be edging, wood chips, topsoil, drain tiles, stuff like that. So it's things we need in addition to the purchase of the equipment in order to install it.
Okay.
I mean, any objections from staff? I mean, you guys are still hanging out. I don't know if this is just for fun or if you actually want to speak on this item.
We've been told that they didn't have to be here.
Yeah.
That's-
I mean, was there any comments on this?
The only comment I have, Josh Brassfield, I'm the street superintendent. is
Real quickly, Josh, I make a motion to open the floor.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, floor's open.
The only comment I have is that this equipment that's in here is desperately needed. I know a couple of years ago, you heard about this when we had the wage study that was done and this kind of got brought up, but it's desperately needed. I can tell you right now, in the middle of this leaf collection, that some of this equipment that we're trying to put out on the road daily is breaking down, and we're trying to provide this service, and if we continue to have breakdowns, the service is going to suffer, there's no doubt about it, right? And we know that this month for us in DPW, as far as an operation, we're trying to get all these leaves picked up because we know what's coming, and that's all the white stuff, right?
Mhm.
And we're using the same trucks to pick up leaves as we are to plow snow, so with the equipment that's in here, I mean, it's crucial. We're at a threshold here where it's crucial that we have it.
appreciate that feedback.
And I just have one comment regarding Parks request. So the only one that's kind of a little out of the ordinary here is under Joanne's Phase 1 Aquatic Center improvements. What we're proposing is, if you look at our actual 5-year CIP, that's actually a $2.25 million project. So what we're proposing to do is break the bond request into 2 subsequent years. So half of it in '26, the other half in '27.
Are you actually going to spend this in '26?
Yes.
Okay.
Our plan is to put it out to bid for fall construction, so fall of 2026, and we're in line to do that right now. But I will say that we will probably need some sort of a formal resolution committing to the second year of funding, because we won't be able to award the bid in 2026 unless we have a commitment for all of the funding.
Pretty similar, I think, what we did at the fire station, right?
Yep. And what we've done for equipment in the past too, with long lead times.
In that Phase 1, that was what you explained to us last time, that keeps the place open and running, right?
Yeah.
Okay. This has nothing to do with the actual redoing of Joanne's or
What this will do is replaster the basement, replace the gutter, the pool gutter, some mechanical upgrades that need to be done. So it's a lot of just basic maintenance work. In addition, adding a few new features in the zero depth entry area. So it's a very minimal renovation project. The bulk of it is just ongoing maintenance costs.
But whatever we're putting in isn't going to be money wasted, for lack of better words, for any future ideas or improvements?
This will follow through with the
Okay.
approved master plan.
Okay.
For phases 2 and 3 of the master plan.
Or can I add another point? Actually, when I talked to you earlier today, I realized, I should have included another item in here, and that would have been kind of showing how we were able to reduce by $5 million. And so I kind of did a recap, and really about 1.5 of it was because we're using unspent bond proceeds or fund balance, and that's how. So some of the items are still were left on the report. It's just that we found another funding source. We didn't have to borrow. We're using money that we already have in our banks. There was about $700,000 that were removed for one reason or another. It got moved, reduced. Maybe they'll push it out. Not sure. And then there are, as Director had just mentioned, there are 3 items that were reduced. Joanne's was cut in half, and then there's 2 items, an ambulance and a fire truck that what we were told is that if the dollars could probably come out of 2026, but same thing, they would like an obligation or a resolution to say that can we order it now, but then one of the items we'd have to pay for in 27 and one in 28 because of the long lead times. And again, we would have to put that in a resolution. I guess I want to finish the list. Then there were another funding source of the CED had $60,000, and then there was actually something on here was more of a lease, so it really wasn't qualified. So we took that off the 2026 borrowing, and then we also had there were some dollar amounts they reevaluated, looked at the numbers, like, hey, maybe that number was a little high. They brought it down, or they had some sale of equipment that they know they could put toward it. So there was a lot of work by the departments to be able to get this number down. And again, so there's 3 items that they're looking for potential to have obligated so that they can start getting the project started.
I see that sidewalk number's up to keep Bill happy.
Yeah, and we've kind of been looking at the balance in there, and so some of it is kind of to offset shortages from prior years too. So it's about where it should be.
You know, one of the things that I observed in here is we get asked this question every year about streets and roads and how much we're investing, and sometimes giving an answer like X number of miles is not always the easiest way for people to understand that, because it's not an easy year-over-year comparison. But I do think dollars spent can be a better comparison. This is obviously split up over a lot of different categories and budgets. I'm just curious if it would be possible to get kind of a consolidated number that helps us understand if we're spending the same amount on roads, if we're increasing, decreasing.
Yes, we can do that. I don't have that added up.
Yeah, no, I don't need it now. I just think it would be a useful number though for all of us. And,
Yeah.
and then Diana, on the, obviously the mayor just released his budget. How far under levy limits are we right now?
Under the levy limit,
Yeah, is there a cushion there?
the levy limit, we're already using an adjustment, so we're gonna end up using an additional adjustment.
Yeah.
We're not at capacity yet for our levy limit.
Okay.
We're certainly under expenditure restraint. But with that combination, because of the large increase in the debt service, that's why our expenditure, we didn't cap out our expenditure restraint that is right currently at a 3% mill rate increase. We have no limits. We could certainly take that amount up,
Yeah.
knowing that your mill rate's going to go up.
So expenditure restraint was going to be my next question, so thank you for answering that. When you say we're up against it, how,
We're not, no, I think we have, I don't remember the number exactly, but we might have $2 million capacity. The reason
Okay.
why is because we didn't have as many expenses go up in our operating budget, because we are using that capacity for debt. And so the debt is eating up a larger portion of that mill rate increase. Debt does not go against our expenditure restraint.
and do you know what the bond rates are going for right now? Roughly 6%?
I thought 2 to 3%.
Or are they that low?
Our last borrowing was under 3%.
Okay. That's good to hear.
But I could ask that question if you wanted to know. I could-
Well, and the reason I'm asking all these questions, right, is because one of the things that we have been talking about as well for a number of years is that it would be really ideal for us to start shifting some of these smaller items into our annual budget instead of borrowing and paying interest on them, recognizing that every year, right, we have these things, but right now we're borrowing for them every year, which means we're paying interest on it every year. And so the problem compounds, not to use a funny accounting pun, and I mean, just simple example, I was using 6%, so, but if you, $6,000 trailer, I don't know if you'd pull a 5-year note on that?
No, it would be 10, it would be a 10-year.
Okay, so 10-year term, sorry, not, since we
It's
don't.
usually based on
do the
useful
notes.
life, right? So that trailer probably has a
Right.
10-year useful life.
Yeah, but that's, approximately $2,000 of total interest on that 10-year note for something, boy, $6,000, let's put that into the levy, the annual budget, and not pay the $2,000 in interest. And of course, it's whittling away at it, right, year over year for things that you're spending money on every year.
We know internally that there have been more and more things. We now have about 80 leased vehicles that are no longer coming through CIP. We have that on operating budget, and there are some Harley leases, and we also have Axon equipment, and there's some other that we have continued to put back into the operating budget. And the new capitalization policy that you guys just approved, saying next year you will not see anything under 10,000 on the list.
Love it.
Thank you.
I apologize, I think the floor is still open.
Oh, is it?
I just, really quick, while it is still
This
open.
gentleman wants to speak.
Yep, I just have a question actually for you guys. I know you looked at the equipment under DPW in parks. Is there anything that's missing that, I know for years, we heard it last year of we're duct taping stuff. Is there anything major that's missing in your opinion?
I think we have a list of stuff we would add if there's room.
What a question, Jen.
Well, we
We'd be
did
like,
come
"Ah, we
prepared
got
because we said 17.3 million, and we came in with a $16.3 million list, knowing that equipment was probably going to be one of the larger requests or the biggest need. If you had additional, the director has pulled a couple items that she thought, they checked with their staff, what would be our priority. But you could certainly, I think asking the staff is probably a good question first, and see if that,
What's the most important item on that list? Important item?
Well, we did increase the equipment asked this year over previous years.
That's what I was
So we did increase it. And then next in line, we're hoping to get a motor grader, and that would be for plowing, but the one we have is from like the 1980s. So that one, it's always deferred because it's not like one of our, it's not a plow truck, it's not a refuse truck, so it's like
What does it
on
do?
the, so that would be for plowing, correct?
It's for
Shouldering, plowing, shouldering,
Shouldering?
ice cutting.
And so we have, how many do we have right now?
6.
6. And the newest one is how old?
Newest one is we just bought a used one here a couple years ago, or last year. That's a 2021, I believe. Okay, I can't.
So everything we have is either was bought used or is considerably older,
Oh, yeah.
1980 on. And if we were to get, what are you looking at getting? Another used one or a new one, or,
That would be for used for 360,000.
and we would trade in our worst one or cobble it down for parts?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
We'll sell it at auction, which the age and the parts availability, you're not getting a whole lot for it at the auction, but it means some type of revenue. Keep in mind, a new motor grader with a wing, you're about $600,000. The motor grader itself is $550,000.
Jesus.
And they're not cheap. So we've been buying used ones, lease turn-ins. Some of the, like a Brooks tractor, they put these tractors on these graders on a rental for a couple of years, and they say, hey, guess what, we got a really good deal on this Chevy used grader. Are you interested? I say, yes, I am. I asked for funding. But yeah, motor graders are essential for the winter operations. You put the wing on there, you get the downforce and peel off the ice that accumulates on the road, which you can't do that with a plow truck. So they're essentially used, but they're also very expensive. So we got to weigh what we're going to use versus how much it's going to cost. Of course, we've been renting them for the last, I've been seeing almost 14 years. Every year, we rent 3 to 4 motor graders just for our local service up, because we don't have enough in our fleet.
What do we pay to rent a motor grader?
About $4,900 a month.
How much?
$4,900 a month.
And is that for the whole year, or do we just rent it for seasonally?
That'll be November, December, about 5 months.
So about $20,000 a year to rent it.
Correct.
Well, seems like a better deal.
So I was just thinking,
I was gonna say.
Is that a better deal to rent it then?
Is there
No.
maintenance?
Okay, go ahead, yeah.
No, they don't have a wing on them, so the wing is essential for doing, you basically do a whole street with a wing.
Okay.
And you also bench and shelf with it, or it's just a moldboard, full moldboard. Without it, it works, but it's not doing full function that we need it to do.
So without the wing, let me see, a 42-foot wide street, you gotta make 3 or 4 passes, right?
Correct.
Instead of just one pass and no,
Maybe 1.5 passes, depending on the width of the street,
which cuts your time at least in half,
and fuel,
and fuel.
And
labor.
So then it starts adding up.
Mileage?
Correct.
No, just wear and tear.
Well, I mean, we were shooting for what, Diane? I'm sorry,
$17.3
Director.
million on the annual borrowing, levy-supported borrowing,
17 point,
3 million.
and we're at 16.
16.3 million on the annual levy borrowing.
I wouldn't have a problem putting forth a motion to add that grader on.
I think, what I'd like to maybe understand, what I was going to ask is if, you said you had a running list of other
Yeah.
needs, could we maybe see like that list of here is the next $1 million worth of,
I'll be honest, I
Priorities?
only got that list or requested it only from one department.
Okay.
And because I knew that the equipment, so the director has put together 3 of them. She also has a refuse truck for another $348,000 and a plow truck for $305,000. And then of course she had some other smaller ones, you know, but those are the three highest priorities, I think it.
Yeah, so the refuse and plow truck, so every year we do 2, we've been doing 2, but we still aren't like up to speed as far as we still have equipment that's beyond its life for both the refuse and plow truck, so we were looking to add in another one of each of those if we could. And then some other things that kind of fall down the priority list, the sign shop, another truck, and the electrical shop. We're both looking for trucks.
Okay, because I guess my thing, Alder Johnson, is that police and fire, and I'm not saying you guys get showered with gold all the time, but when it comes to vehicles, your vehicles are pretty much up to snuff. They have to be. And it seems to me that over the years, it's DPW and parks that get shorted. And they're the ones that are asked to, fabricate part. I mean, when you can't even buy the part anymore, you have to fabricate it. I think that's a statement right there. And that's why I'm thinking more DPW and parks at this point in time. I mean, I'd love to say throw some more locks on for bathrooms, Dan, but I know we'll stay away from that for now.
We
But,
did just add some.
I know, there aren't enough until they're all open. But
Until they're
anyway,
all open, yeah.
you know, when you get an old man's bladder, there's nothing that is there for you. So anyway, I guess what I'm saying is, I think it's time if we can take a look at looking at the parks and DPW and see if they can put together a list of things that, if there was room, what would they take first and what's going to be the most help. And let's face it, this is a morale issue too.
Yes.
Okay, when you have to go to work and you're working in stuff that is substandard, you don't know if it's gonna break down, when you hear about us wasting time, mechanics' time, trying to keep things running that they shouldn't have to be spending their time on. I mean, you know, so, I always knew what it was like to hop into a new squad car. I mean, there's nothing like having a new set of wheels underneath you instead of something that's been all beat to heck for, 3 or 4 years, so.
Or 50.
Well, you acted.
So, anyway, but I would like this committee to consider, if we have time right now to do it, to look at a couple of items from Parks and DPW and see if we could see our way to adding those on into this.
Yeah, and I'm for that discussion too. I just, personally, I think it'd be better to adopt this with the budget, so that way we have the flexibility to move things, you know what I mean, into the annual budget versus the capital plan.
And I like that
Yes.
too, yes.
The timing was, I intentionally, this is our last meeting before the joint personnel and finance meeting. So I intentionally brought that here with the assumption that we would actually do the official approval, that this would be recommended to move to that budget meeting. So in case there were a lot of follow-up and you wanted additional changes, so I did expect we would approve them together on the 13th of November.
That sounds, yeah. Because I'm looking at this going, but wait a minute, I agree with, I want the equipment, we gotta have the right stuff, but we haven't seen the other side yet either.
Can I ask a clarification
So-
question? So if we max out the bonding to the 17 million, that would not affect the mill rate where we're talking right now, or whatever, because I know your one chart talks about if we increase, how that would affect the mill rate. So if we were to maximize the 17, that is not going to affect the current mayor's proposal in front of us.
Correct. The reason why is because we will borrow in 2026, and the first debt service payment on the 26 borrowing happens in April of 27.
Okay.
We do pay an interest payment on the 26 borrowing in October, but it's a small portion. So yes, if we borrowed an extra $1 million, the interest would be a little bit larger. But I mean, I take that into consideration that we're going to have borrowing and we'll have that interest on a new borrowing going forward. So yes, the first debt service payment is on that additional $1 million would be in the following year.
Okay, I just want to make sure if we max that out, that that's not
Nope.
all of a sudden shifting the budget that's
Yep.
before us. I kind of want to voice my opinion.
Sure.
I appreciate you recognizing DPW because that's why I'm asking what I'm asking, and I know you tied in parks, but I'm going to voice my opinion on that. When I'm getting complaints as an alder, I honestly haven't had too many complaints of park upgrades, and we are upgrading Joanne's. We are doing this big JBS project. Personally, I think a lot of money has gone to parks, and I know everybody wants more. I get that. But I do know for 2 years straight, you guys have come here and sat through these meetings, and we hear you. So personally, if we are going to max out the bonding, I would like to see DPW get caught up. When I'm getting calls that the roads aren't plowed or icy or whatever, District 1 is notorious for ice out by the bay. So hearing those things, that brings value to me and my residents, I think, immediately.
Are you trying to buy extra services?
No, but I mean, if I rented this to ice, I'm just saying. But
I live
those are
on the other
calls-
side, so
Yeah, those
I
are the
get it.
calls I'm getting. So personally, if we're gonna max out the bonding, I would rather see your department get a little caught up. I think it could use it a little bit more. So personal opinion, just wanna throw that out there.
Right. And just in defense of why I'm bringing parks into this is.
Keep it fair.
No.
Well, let's just throw police and fire in right
No,
away.
they're sitting there holding their own. But
On the other side.
the reason I bring parks in is because obviously DPW, a major part of what they do and what the public sees is their vehicles. That's how they get their job done. Parks, on the other hand, Yeah, they're getting the new ball diamonds. I mean, Colburn Park is looking great. I mean, and some of the other parks are really starting to. But the other side of it is the equipment that they have to use, just like DPW has to use their equipment.
Yep.
Their stuff is old, it's beat up, it's used, and it's not working very well. And again, for them to get their job done, so that the parks do look nice, they do need that equipment to be operational all the time. And many times, I know Dan has come to us and, well, this thing absolutely, we can't even fix it anymore. And so we need a new one. And so that's why I would like to see DPW benefit from this. At the same time, though, if Parks had a piece of equipment or two that would really help them do their job. And their equipment doesn't come close to what it costs for DPW. So I'm just saying, if there's a fairness way that we can kind of help both departments out, I'd like to see us do that. But I agree with you. I mean, if the streets aren't plowed,
Yeah.
nobody's happy.
Okay, sorry, we should probably separate discussion. The floor is still open, I apologize.
That's all right, that's all right. Jared Kane, 2311 Eastman Avenue, apartment 4. Touching on what Josh had said about the state of our equipment, I've been employed with the city of Green Bay since 2013. I'm a toolcat operator on the west side. We have taken steps in the procedure in plowing and our leaf collection in the past 6 years. Our production now on a daily basis compares nothing to when I first started. And even the amount of overtime that the city spends on us during like leaf collection is dramatically less compared to when I first started or from when before I started. And a lot of that has to do with the procedures that we're so much more organized right now. One of the things is the addition to the tank clamps that go onto the front of the loader. It helps, it increases our production so much more. And it's also, as far as public safety, the loader is actually able to load the trucks from the back rather than the trucks having to go on the side and interfering with traffic. So that's a big thing, and it helps with the safety of my coworkers. I guess throughout the past few years, I always would use the analogy, we've taken one step forward, but 2 steps back. But now I'm kind of nervous that we're going to be at a tipping point where we're going to be headed for real trouble. And I just wanted to address this committee about that. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Did you have anything else to add? Okay. Any other comments?
Do we want to let either one of the chiefs speak if they?
We can close the floor for that. Any other comments from the public?
Motion to close the floor.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, floor is closed. Chiefs?
I'll let the fire chief speak for their department, but, we encountered a similar problem to what we hear from DPW a few years ago with patrol cars. The good news for us is we've spent the last 3 years digging out of that problem, and so for what my opinion is worth, I think if you're contemplating trying to get caught up in a department, we're probably more caught up than DPW is, and so there's certainly nothing that would make a lot of sense to me. And you talk about public safety in winter when we plow the roads, we get to go to fewer traffic crashes, and it impacts people less in the community, and that's what we're all here to do. So it all makes sense to me.
Sure. And I would echo that too. I mean, I think, that makes our jobs easier. They're just like us as first responders going to different things, and they're there for us when we need them, and I think that's a good thing too. And regardless, even if we did order more engines or more trucks, we couldn't get them physically next year either. So one thing is, the buildings, the fire station project continues. We keep whittling prices down, but that's something we still struggle with on trying to be within budget.
So that's something just to put that out there too.
Dan, did you want to add anything?
No, in honesty, I mean, we're in a similar predicament to Public Works. Our equipment's old and aging. You can never get caught up with the amount of replacements that you really would like to see, so where's that happy medium is what we're trying to get to. But I'd be more than happy to put a list together and prioritize with staff. I didn't come to this meeting with any thoughts on that, because I've never been asked to add to a bond request like that, so. But we can at least sort through what our highest priorities are for your consideration.
Yeah, and I think it's important to acknowledge, right, this 17.3 is a recommendation. We can exceed that. Doesn't mean we have to, but we just have to understand.
Yeah, let's not get crazy here.
No, but we just have to understand what the impact is, right? So I think what would be very helpful for me, again, as a decision maker, is to have that secondary list of prioritized equipment. I would still like to see it regardless of department, so that we feel really well informed. But if there's one thing I think I've heard loud and clear over the last couple of budgets, it's that DPW's equipment is hanging on by a shoestring. And if there's one thing I would maybe add to that, I hope you guys know that what you see at the committee and what you see at the budget meeting is one thing. Your director has really been advocating for you behind the scenes. So it's that's why we're all sitting here saying, hey, it needs attention. So.
But I think we got to look at it from a broader, because I can make the same argument from an IT perspective, that we have not invested in the programming and the automation. So anything that we're, equipment or whatever, it's really to make their jobs easier, and that's, I think, where we need to be focused when we apply the money, is how does it make their jobs easier and more efficient?
I understand both departments are very different, but is there any equipment that has overlap that can be shared between departments? I mean, between like pickup trucks
Dan
or...
drive a grader?
No, but I mean like pickup trucks or like
It's difficult to do that because, the
trailers.
equipment that we purchase, we use regularly, so it's
Okay.
hard if we're both trying to use it. But we do share equipment
Okay.
on occasion, like for example, Public Works has a lowboy trailer. We don't have one, so when we have need for that to haul big pieces of machinery or large trees, we'll ask to borrow
Okay.
that or work with them on it. So we do some equipment sharing, but it's difficult to
Sure.
say you get it half the time and we get it half the time.
And I do want to point out something that Dan and I have talked about, which is the phrases that we always see at the end of the fill statements for parks, that their staffing levels have remained the same, but they've added all this extra parkland. And of course, I've started to just personally witness it more and more with some of our newer facilities. And so I did privately ask Dan, start contemplating what that means for capacity for the Parks Department.
Right.
Because to continue to build these things that are wonderful, but not have the resources to maintain them, is just foolish.
Right.
So it's, I'm not suggesting that it would have to be here, and of course, you're talking about personnel, potentially, that would have to come through a budget, but it is something that I've personally asked Dan to really look at and prioritize.
Yeah, and I know that we'll have to be discussing that in 2027, once Shipyard 2 is open, JBS is open, Light Park is open. I mean, these are some pretty major park investments that we'll have to look at that, but most of those won't be open much in 2026. It really comes into 2027.
And you have the market that just went through RDA that'll go through. I mean, there's a couple of other things too beyond what you haven't even mentioned.
Okay, so I'd make a motion that we hold this until the next meeting, which would be the joint Personnel and Finance Committee meeting.
So we just said,
And then direct staff to bring back a list of the next top list of priorities, I guess.
And you said you would like a list from all the major departments? Or do you want more dedicated departments?
Well, I think to Bill's point, we know, I think it's important that we give every department an opportunity to at least weigh in on that. And then at that meeting, I think that's where we exercise, obviously, our judgment on what we think is the most important priority. So I would request that every department have the opportunity to weigh in.
Do you want the list prior to the meeting then?
If it could be part of the
For
meeting packet.
consideration?
Our
Oh, part of the
meeting packet.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do I have a second for that?
Second.
Okay, any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries unanimously.
Thanks for the
Thank you,
feedback,
guys.
everybody.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, number 7, consideration with possible action to approve the 2026 levy supported borrowing request.
We just did.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, I was
I'm
just gonna say,
sorry.
make this a-
Just kidding, I just want to hang out with you guys
Can we
longer.
do it all over again?
Yep. Number 8, consideration with possible action on the 2026-2030 capital improvement plan report.
Alder, if you want to go through all 700 pages one by one, we could
Yes,
stay longer.
please.
That has been updated with a lot of feedback from staff and from alders. But, that document is changing. I have 2 more requests, that what's in there, we already found 2 more items that we'd want to change. So that one also could be held until that same meeting to be approved. But
Motion to
I will,
hold.
we'll make sure that the,
Second.
but the borrowing should then match what's in the.
They're so rude.
Bill's got dinner sitting at home.
Okay, so I have a motion to hold, seconded by Alder Galvin. Any other questions or discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries unanimously. Informational, 2025 contingency account, 25,000. Next meeting, joint personnel and finance budget meeting, Thursday, November 13th at 4:30. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. What'd you say?
I think I'm leaving, I have that on my calendar for 3 o'clock.
Girl, do you check your emails? There was
They
a whole
switched
email
it
stream about
again.
moving it to
Okay.
4:30.
Oh,
Everybody
God.
but you